hopping on here tonight with an opportunity to visit with Miss Greater Vancouver, the one, the only, the infamous, the hilarious Kailey Herren. And I am just waiting for her to hop online. But while we're on there, oh, there she goes. We've got the teen on. Here we go. Amber's here. Amber 1. We'll see if Amber 2 comes on. I get to interview Amber 2 tomorrow evening. So let's see. Oh, and there's Amber 2. Okay, we've got Amber squared on here. Perfect. Hey, ladies. So I'm excited to hear about this cool event that happened at the Capitol this weekend that some of you ladies were at. And here we go. I'm going to ask Kailey about that first because I know she was there at least for yesterday. But I think it was a full weekend kind of deal. So yeah, the double trouble. Hey, girl.
Hi.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Good. Well, you look gorgeous. What have you been up to today?
Thank you. Not a whole lot this morning, but this afternoon, the Miss Clark County girls are in our ambassadors. We're at Sherry Backus's house, and we had Alicia Cooper-Cooley come in and give us some tips on how to glam us out in our hair. And I used a new curling iron.
Okay.
It worked. It's great. I'm going to switch to the 1.5 inch because I'm digging it.
I love it. It looks fabulous.
Thank you.
And how was Miss Alicia? Amazing as always, I'm sure. So what kind of tips are you sharing? So hair, it was all hair tips?
Mostly makeup. So we went through kind of just everything, a good basic look, kind of how to transition it into a more, pageant style, darkening it up a bit. So we've got people all different levels of understanding of how makeup works and what it looks like when we put it on and, strategies and whatnot. So it was really fun to be with the ambassadors who were like, I've never put on eyelashes. Like, I don't know what to do. Or like, what's this translucent powder versus this like slightly tinted pressed powder. So it was really fun and kind of, I don't know, reminded me of when I was young and just shooting at the wind, hoping for the best, putting on that golden purple eyeshadow and really hoping that I looked like Hannah Montana, which was the goal at the time.
Okay. Yes, indeed. Hannah Montana. I love throwback.
She was the dream.
Well, I love it. Isn't it awesome when our formers come back and give? And Alicia's been an awesome resource, I know, in Clark County for you ladies. I'm so glad that she came home, right? I was just talking with somebody the other day about 2 of our Miss Washingtons who've moved out of state, Amber Hamilton Corriston and Annalie Klein Medici, and they're both across the country. But it's so nice when we have a resource right here in Washington for some of our formers to come in and help out. And we love giving back, right? I'm sure Alicia.
I can tell.
Every minute of it. Loved every minute of it. All right. So I was just saying before you hopped on here, I'm really curious to know about this event you guys were at this weekend at the Capitol Mall. So initially when I heard about it, I thought it was like table tennis, like a ping pong tournament. So when I saw you guys were actually playing table games, I was like, what's going on? So tell me about this and how it all came together and what it was like for you.
Yeah, so Capitol Mall put on a tabletop game event. It was in part just kind of typical games. I saw some chutes and ladders, and then I saw all sorts of obscure games that I've never heard of. For the people who are really into board games, mad respect. I have a hard time sitting through a 3-hour game, but they're fun. We got to do sort of a little private event. We actually got to play Dungeons and Dragons, which is probably the most random appearance we'll have in our respective experiences. And also really challenged a lot of us who are especially type A thinkers, very logical, to get creative. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever played Dungeons and Dragons, but it's all role play.
I'm familiar with what it is, but I haven't played.
So it's all role play. You get to choose your character and develop your character, and there are certain attributes and weapons and spells and all sorts of things, skills that your character has, and using those things, you make decisions. So you really have to put yourself in your character's shoes and think about what's my background, what are my skills, and how do I use them to accomplish whatever it is I need to accomplish. And it feels very kind of silly and playful and childlike, but I think that's also kind of the goal. It's to bring out that curious, fun side of you and to push all the heavy things away and just enjoy. So it challenged us. But, you know, we won our adventure. We got our 5 little light up stones that we had to find. So, you know, I think we did a great job.
So fun. Okay, so I'm thinking about this. I'm going to make a note. So do you think that the game would be appropriate? I have a 7-year-old son. Do you think it would be appropriate for him?
I think if you did a kid version.
Okay.
So we did have some princesses that came in and had their own version. I didn't get to witness it, but I imagine there probably wasn't as much, you know, potential violence. Like maybe don't stab the zombie. Maybe we don't even use the zombie, or it's a nice zombie. I don't know.
Skip the zombie.
Our zombie's name was Bob, and he was wonderful.
Okay.
But unfortunate things did still happen to him.
Okay.
So I think maybe if you could shift a little bit, maybe just change the nature of it, you could probably make it a good GPG.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that. Thanks for that. I'm always looking for fun stuff to get him involved in. Yeah. So thank you. So, okay. So just to be clear, so the Capitol Mall, who is a sponsor for the Miss Washington Scholarship Organization, the pageant is being held in Olympia this year, the capital city for our state, where Capitol Mall is located. And so they invited the Miss Washington contestants and the teen contestants, those who could attend, along with their princesses, to come and participate in what was it called? A tabletop game
event, essentially. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So they gave us unlimited access. So they said, enjoy, play all the games, play some of the games, play D&D, which they did just for us. Like that was a private event, which was so cool.
Fun.
And they gave us lots of little goodies and stuff too, which was very
swag.
nice of them. Yes,
swag.
exactly. We got our own dice. They hooked us up with a little gift card for Stack. I think it's 571 Burger Place. Yeah, they were good to us. They were really good to us. It was fun to go around. We popped around the mall, went into a couple shops. I went into a freeze-dried candy shop. Yeah, one of my favorite things in life is freeze-dried anything, especially fruit. But this was, what was it, rainbow sprinkle cupcake, and basically it just tastes like freeze-dried frosting, and I'm here for that.
I know you have your sweet tooth. I know you love your sweet tooth.
I do. I do. Yeah, I'm a sweetie.
Yep. All right, so let's talk more about Kailey, because that's what this whole session is all about, is getting to know you better. So I wrote down some things that I wanted to ask you about. So first of all, Miss Greater Vancouver. So what does it mean to be a greater, right? So share with a little bit for anybody who's hopping on here who doesn't understand what it would mean to be like Miss Vancouver or Miss Clark County, but instead you're Miss Greater Vancouver. Share what that means.
Yes, if you've heard the word metro area, it's kind of similar. So we're talking about just the Greater Vancouver area, so outskirts as well. Our sister title holder, Miss Clark County, obviously covers all of Clark County, but that extends to beyond Vancouver itself. So that includes like Richfield and Battleground and all sorts of other areas. So I cover the Greater Vancouver and surrounding areas. Perfect.
And that works really well for you because maybe you're not quite as available to go to as many places, because you are, tell your story a little bit. You are one of our older contestants. Which means that you may not have as much free time in your world at this point in your life, in this moment, to be called upon to travel all over beyond the Greater Vancouver area, because you have a busy life, lady.
I do.
And you decided to throw this on the plate as well.
What's a little extra?
Kind of like surprise. So tell that story, because I love that story.
Yeah, I just clarify a little bit. Yes, I do have a very busy life. I'm also really good at prioritizing.
Yes, you are.
And I have a very flexible job. I love my job. I work at a chiropractic clinic, and what's very similar among a lot of chiropractic clinics is there are days that you just don't see patients at all and long breaks. So Tuesdays and Thursdays are admin days for me, which means I can do whatever I want as long as I get my work done. So I actually have more flexibility than potential other title holders across the state who've got 9 to 5.
9 to 5.
Yeah. So yes, I'm a very busy person. I'm involved in 15,000 different things, but like very strategically.
Yes. That reminds me of our former Miss Washington, Maddie Ladder. She's currently Miss Washington volunteer. And I mean, she works a full-time job, finds time to do all the things. I mean, it's possible, but it's a lot. Even Vanessa, right, when she was crowned Miss Washington this year, had a full-time job with the U.S. military, being an Army sergeant. And one of the things that we learn in pageant is how to prioritize time so that we can get all the things done. But share a little bit about how it was that you decided in this season of life to compete for the title of Miss Greater Vancouver?
This pageant specifically, yes. So I came back after, I was going to say taking a year off, but I'm going to playfully say I got booted out because of my age, and I went to the volunteer side of things and was pretty involved in all things Miss Clark County in terms of like helping prep for interview and different things pertaining to the pageant itself. And so I was very involved on the back side of things and was loving it, eating it up. It's really fun to be on this side, the contestant side, but then also really fun to go to the volunteer side, have a very different perspective of what goes on, and really get to be a part of like the integral parts of developing the pageant, watching it come together and supporting girls.
So I have to ask you then. Okay, so let's play this or that. So pageant contestant or pageant volunteer? I mean, which do you enjoy more? Because I will just say, being a contestant requires a lot of you, super challenging, all that professional and personal growth and development, right? All the things, lots of time commitment, right? Volunteer maybe a little bit less. So how do you do a this or that for me on being a volunteer or a contestant in the organization or a volunteer with the organization?
I spent a couple months sorting that out. When Sherry let me know that I was eligible again, I said, but what if I want to stay a volunteer? She's like, you can. And I said the same thing to other people. Yeah. But I also felt that internal tension, that pull of I've got one last shot. I have the rest of my life to volunteer. And then I have one shot to be a better volunteer in the future. To be, I guess, to have an experience that would be a catalyst to being a better volunteer in the future. And so I did. I took a couple months to kind of weigh it out, because it's hard to give up something that's good for something that might be better. Because, I knew what was already true. Yes. And I decided, why not? Let's just give it a go. I'll come back and volunteer if the opportunity presents itself. And then, here we are. So I guess it worked out. And frankly, I'm actually getting to do a lot of the things that I was doing other than being on, the back end, the inside parts of the next pageant. But I am still getting to help people with interview prep. I love interviews so much. And I genuinely feel like a better, stronger, more capable and skilled person when I help other people prep for interview. Yes. It's not competitive at all for me. I genuinely think we both just are better because of it. So I love just getting to do that, and also really getting to communicate that, like, I'm on your side. I'm still your cheerleader, even if I'm the person who's competing next to you. And that's been such a gift. Adriana and I have been a part of each other's mock interviews. And I know that's not always a common experience all over the state, all over the country, because there is that concern of what if I teach her something that sets her ahead. But her and I both talked about, if you're ahead of me, then like, I did a pretty good job, and vice versa. We prepped each other, but also we get to watch each other succeed. We both had the moment of, if you win and I don't even make semifinals, I'm going to be crying for you. I'm going to be shouting for you. And that is such a gift. That's such a gift. And I think my volunteer experience partially allowed me to do that more comfortably. Getting to practice being a cheerleader and not compete against other people makes you prioritize that more.
Yes. I love that you said that, because in the Miss America organization, and this isn't true of every organization, a lot of organizations say it's true or allude to something like this, but especially in the state of Washington, it's especially true that we compete with one another and not against one another. And so I always liked when I work with women to really reinforce that what you're bringing to this is uniquely you, and you're going to stand alongside another woman who's going to look completely different than you and bring a completely different set of skills, different set of interests, experiences, how she would do the job. You are not competing against her. You are competing with her. We want her to do her best. We want you to do your best. And together we elevate each other to do even greater things, right? And that sisterhood within the state of Washington, I think is just really unique, along with the family, the pageant family here in Washington. And I love our pageant family. Of course, at the helm, our fearless leader, Peggy Miller, who makes that all possible, right? Because if it weren't for her, the way that she conducts business, then we wouldn't be able to have that kind of trickle down and that feeling, right, that's modeled from the top. So, all right, so let's talk for a minute about Miss Washington, which is just,
it's so soon. I'm so excited.
It's June.
I know. Oh my gosh, I can't, it's just blowing my mind to even think about it. Every day I'm scheduling patients out and we're like, okay, 3 weeks, 4 weeks out. I'm like, I won't be here on that day. I'm going to be leaving. I'm going to be on my way to Olympia. That's crazy.
Yes, 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 yes. Okay, so you have a CSI, a service initiative that you have selected to bring to the Miss Washington platform for your year of service that is really unique to you. Mm-hmm. And you have chosen this and you have really elevated it. And so would you share a little bit, Kailey, about how you selected it, why you selected it, and then a little bit about what you've been doing up to this point and how you would carry that through as a state title holder?
My community service initiative is All Bodies Are Good Bodies. And it's really rooted in my experience and really the collective experience between me and my peers in recovering from an eating disorder, mine specifically a restrictive eating disorder, in a world that really prioritizes this thin ideal and creates this diet culture that is so pervasive and so prevalent and leads to different biases and stigmas that leads to systemic issues, especially for those in plus size bodies. I had a very different experience recovering than my friends who are plus size or self-proclaimed fat. That is a word they use, and I will always respect that. And I think it's good we start normalizing it. And what I heard from them is that it was harder to get a diagnosis because they weren't believed when they said, I have a restrictive eating disorder and I'm not eating, or I'm not eating enough and I don't want to, and I'm terrified. And their doctors or therapists would look them up and down and say, you sure? You sure? Or like, just try eating a little bit more, but still cut back because it's good for you. It's working for you. But realistically, I mean, if you look at their measurable health indicators, labs, they were suffering more than I was. And they were facing much more significant long-term health problems because they were being ignored and invalidated. And that made me so upset. And it wasn't something that I even realized until I, after a lot of hesitation, went to a support group where I thought it was going to be all very, very thin people. And I walked into a room and there was so much body diversity. I was like, am I in the right room? I mean, I'm at a treatment center, so I think it's safe to assume that yes, but I don't know. And I heard these stories and I was sad and I was mad and I felt that internal tension. And then I felt a fire to recover for myself, but because I wasn't going to sit back and allow that to happen. That was not fair. That recovery was so accessible for me, that my experience was so validated and theirs wasn't because of the size of their body.
So it sounds really like a patient heal thyself journey to some degree because of the amount of self-advocation that really goes into it. It's not something that you're going to go in for an annual appointment and somebody's going to say, clearly you have a problem. Right. It's something that you're really going to have to say, wow, I think I need some help. Is that true? Yes
and no. There's a lot of people, specifically with anorexia nervosa, folks tend to, I guess, try to ignore the problem or pretend that it isn't actually a problem, attribute it to other things. There's a lot of denial that's actually part of the diagnostic criteria. There's a denial of the actual reality of what's happening. Sure. And so sometimes it takes friends and families or doctors to say, hey, like, something's not right here. How's it going? And that's uncomfortable. It's awkward. Nobody knows how to approach it because it's dangerous territory. You don't want to push someone away or say what you're doing is bad or wrong or hurtful to me specifically. I pushed back when friends and family did point it out. And that happened for years off and on, in college, post-college, in church settings and therapeutic settings. I was like, well, no, I can't possibly have this experience because I'm not thin enough. I'm not underweight. And I remember a mentor of mine said, well, are you going to wait till you're dying? And I said, I think that's what you're supposed to do. Because I didn't know. I genuinely thought to have a valid eating disorder, you have to be on the verge of death. That's the only way that you're going to be helped, because I had this very media induced or influenced idea of what an eating disorder looks like. So mine took a lot of external tension, met with a miserable reality, getting to the point where I didn't want to do anything, but also was overcompensating by doing everything and busying myself so that I had no time to take care of myself and use that as an excuse. So I got really good at a lot of things really fast, except I was suffering and I was not good at taking care of myself. And finally got to the point where I was like, okay, I hear everybody. I'm tired of everybody on my back. Fine. I'll get help. And it was hard. for many months. I mean, it was hard for a long time, but especially the first few months. And then I was like, oh, yeah, this is right where I need to be. We're not okay. And this is not okay. So it took a long time to get.
Okay, so coach me a little, right? Because I work with women constantly and regularly, right? And of course, you're in a setting now where you have the opportunity to mentor and encourage your sister contestants as well as the teens that are around you. So as you come in contact with women and you have sort of, you know, I don't know if you would say a suspicion or if you have a concern, maybe that would be a better way to put it, about something that you're hearing or seeing. How would you bring that to an individual in a way that's gentle, loving, considerate, thoughtful, and not jarring, in the way that in a way that's not going to produce pushback, but let somebody really know that, like, hey, I care, and I may be way off base about this, but can we have this conversation? I like, how would you coach me to talk about that with somebody?
I wish I had a really straightforward answer in terms of the trying to avoid pushback. It's going to happen. When someone is saying, hey, there's something wrong, or I think there's something wrong, and you are going through every effort to ignore it or push it aside, they're going to get upset. And that's an unfortunate reality. And of course we can do things to kind of minimize that or provide comfort or reassurance in the process. I have a unique experience in that I have this lived experience. And I think it would be a lot harder for someone who doesn't, unless you intentionally position yourself to be a lifelong learner about these kinds of things and ask questions to people like me and other people who have different eating disorder experiences. So if you don't have your own, you say, hey, I have a friend who's struggled with this, you know, after you've started kind of the initial conversation, to provide a lot of reassurance and comfort. In terms of that initial conversation, I often just start with pointing out what I'm seeing. I use perception as a tool rather than assumption, or rather than telling someone that I know exactly what they're experiencing, because my experience is not the same as others. But I validate what their experience is because I likely have a similar one. And so when I notice friends who are like, oh, I haven't eaten at all today, or I notice they're picking at their food, or they're talking about cutting out entire food groups, I often ask questions like, oh, did you just like not get a chance to eat today? Or do you have a snack on hand? And I wait for that pushback. I say, is everything okay? You know, I noticed you haven't been eating as much, or I've noticed you've been exercising a lot more lately, but you seem really tired. Are you feeling okay? Is there anything going on? And I think those beginning questions are just really important. It's the follow-up that's really hard. It's really hard because everybody's experience is so different. And I'm not a therapist. I'm not a dietitian. I have a lot of experience, but I don't have that professional experience yet. Maybe one day that door will be opened, or I will open that door. Hello, Miss Washington scholarship money. But yeah, so I'm continuously learning how to do that too, which is why I'm putting myself in opportunities to be a lifelong learner. I went to the Columbia River Eating Disorder Network conference that they have every year, which, oh my gosh, was so informative and definitely made me realize that I want to learn a lot more about this, and I already know, in maybe a more professional way. And so I'm always learning, but everybody's experience is so different. I think asking questions is the best way to start conversations, and be really kind and affirming. Don't push back right away. Create a sense of safety, because that's what's going to make people feel comfortable enough to say maybe something is wrong.
That's great. Thank you, Kailey. I appreciate that. So one of the things that I know that you're working on right now is something that I had never even thought of as a possibility. And that is the ability to actually curate what you're seeing on social media with such specificity that you are no longer being bombarded or even tempted by images that would cause you to go down the road of potentially affecting your eating habits. And you want to teach people how to do that. Will you share a little bit about that?
So that guidebook that I'm creating is almost done. Part of my issue right now is that I've done it so well on my own social media that it's hard to pull examples, because I'm like, well, how do I show them how to get rid of this ad when I've curated such a great social media experience that now I can't pull from these examples. But there are so many ways to make social media a better experience. We know social media kind of gets a bad rap, gets a lot of pushback, it has a bad reputation. But I think it's because of the way that we use it.
Right.
It's important to remember that people are responsible for what they put out into the world. We are also responsible for what we consume via social media, and we get to decide when we like or don't like something and if we want to continue seeing it. So I think the first thing to do is get rid of the things that don't make you feel good about yourself. If you're following an influencer who's constantly like going on all these detoxes, but can't tell you anything about health, that's another thing, you know, or giving these really generic workout programs, and they're not talking about anything that might be nuanced about the situation, or they're constantly like, oh, I'm feeling really fat today. And like, fat's not a feeling, first of all. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. It's not. It's sorry. I have a feelings chart right here up above. You can kind of see it. It's not on there. It's not on there.
So that's not a feeling. There's
it's not a feeling. It's not a feeling. So get rid of those. If they make you question who you are or the way that you perceive yourself, or you think other people perceive you, get rid of it. I can tell you right now, they don't care if they lose that follower. You don't matter enough to them because you're a number. And yeah, that's a good first step. But there's also lots of ways of decreasing the amount of ads that are popping up on your phone about weight loss programs, diet foods, you know, really anything pertaining to that, or other influencers who are kind of targeting your specific demographic because they have the ability to do that. There are ways to turn those off, and you can say, I don't want to see anything similar to this.
Cool.
And I also have tons of recommendations for people to follow who believe a lot of the things that I believe and know way more than me. Dietitians, naturopaths, therapists, people who have lived experiences and bodies that look like mine, but also plus size bodies. I have a wealth of information in this that I really want to share, because I think it's important that if you want to have a positive experience on social media, that you take charge of that, but that you also lean on people who have the resources to tell you how to do that. So you're not exhausting yourself trying to understand the entire Instagram algorithm to accomplish this.
Right.
Yeah, it's can be tough.
I want to ask for your help then on something, because let's work together on this, because I'm going to put this video, this conversation over on my YouTube channel. And when I put it there, I'd love to put in the comments, once you have that book complete, how people can access it. Okay, so would you help me get that information when you have that finished, so that I can make sure and that there's a link there to be able to find that information, because I think it's invaluable, and I think what you're doing is really cool, Kailey.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes, I will absolutely provide that. I want people to have unlimited access to it. I want it to be easy. Send it to your friends. Send it to your friends. I don't care. Let's just get it out.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And you've worked really hard on this, and it's something that it never even occurred to me. So, all right. So let's move on from service initiative. Yeah. So I found out yesterday a fun fact about you that I had no idea about. And it's your own fault, because you leaned into it. So.
I knew this was going to come up. I knew it would.
So you are an archer, or at least you were a very good archer, a skilled archer, when you were younger. So share with me all about this, because I am so intrigued. I don't actually know any female archers who have pursued. I don't. Who have pursued that to the degree that it appears you actually did or have. Yeah. So tell me all about it.
Yeah, that was my childhood rise to fame. Not really fame, but as you saw, I was on the cover of the Quiver. The Quiver, a black and white magazine for people in the various organizations that are archery related. Oh, that magazine's so funny. I'm so glad I found that. I think it said that it was published.
Isn't Quiver published by the Washington State Archery Association?
Yep, the WSAA.
Pretty big deal. Pretty big deal.
Yeah. So
how did you get into it? How old were you when you started?
So I was 5. My dad was an archer. He was I know. Who gives a 5-year-old a bow and arrow? Apparently my parents. They are blunt tips. Like, it actually is hard to puncture things. But in this day and age, would I make that same decision? Probably not. But I have a vivid memory of opening up this box at my 5th birthday. And I pulled out an arrow and I said, I know what this is. And my dad took me to an archery range. We went to Archery World, and I got my little 5-yard target ahead of me and learned how to shoot, and kept shooting, and sized up in bows, and got new releases. So, thing that actually triggers the arrow if you're going to do that. and started competing. It was really fun. I loved doing it. It was great for my kind of type A thinking and someone who thought it was fun to move my body but didn't want to do it in a team setting. It's all on me. I make the rules on how this goes. And it's such a mind game, kind of like golf. There's obvious, strategy and technique, but a lot of it is your mind and being really dialed in and kind of pushing out competition, but also letting competition feel you a little bit. So, maybe there's some parallels to pageantry there.
Anything you could use at pageant.
Yeah, we're shooting for bullseyes, baby. So it's only 10 point. Well, yeah, I guess it would be 10 point per ring. That's funny. But yeah, I didn't keep competing. I stopped around 5th grade because I got to the point where I was missing out on other things because I spent my whole life shooting. Like I just constantly. I started again in middle school, didn't do a whole lot with that. It was really something that I just had an on and off again relationship with that I always wanted to do, but I didn't want to dedicate the time to. In hindsight, should have stayed dedicated because that probably would have paid for my college. I was really good. The shop that I was shooting at even said, like, hey, you keep going with this and we'll talk about sponsoring you. And at the time, when you're 10, you're like, cool, I'll get a t-shirt. Girlfriend. I should have been asking bigger questions. But yeah, I did. I was the Washington State indoor Blueface Cub Freestyle Unlimited champion. I think that's what the plaque says. It's right over here. I can pull it out. But oh my gosh. And then went on to sectionals, which is kind of like 6 different states, got 2nd place, and here we are today. Not an archer, but lots of former experience. And if I do get the opportunity to shoot, like at Girl Scout camp, it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun.
Yes. Yeah. So do you, I mean, is it like riding a bike? I mean, if you went and picked up a bow, you would be right back where you were. Oh yeah. No trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know that that's the case for everybody, but I'm a pattern girl. If there's a pattern, I'm going to follow it forever until I see a need to change it. So I get up there and I'm like, okay, set yourself up, square your feet. That left foot kind of angles a little bit. We hips square, but we turn our upper body. Okay, feel that right there. Yep. It's so specific. I had this whole routine down, which I think is why it was so easy for me to dial in. When you practice so much and you can just do it intuitively, then you kind of just get to be in the moment. So yeah, it's still stuck in my brain, which I think is very funny and great because when Girl Scouts are like, wait, what? They've got an additional hand. I'm not the person who's trained to do it, but I'm like, hey, I have a little experience. So,
there's something in the back of my mind that is just wondering if Kailey should not have done archery for her talent.
I wanted to, and the rules say no. They say you can't do things on stage, and I was like, this is the one thing that I'm really good at that could be entertaining. Now I believe more in myself about singing, but at the time I was like, what if I just shoot different types of Washington apples off of a target? I could totally do that.
I love it.
But no, the rules say that's not an option, which is a bummer, but I also understand like a lot of pageants are held at schools and weapons.
Oh yeah. Right. It opens a whole door.
Yeah. So I had to get creative, had to come up with another solution, but man, should that ever be an opportunity.
Oh, so fun. So fun. I was going to say that would be almost as much fun as watching oil get changed on stage. I mean, super entertaining. So, okay. So I need to know then, I need to know at least one other fun fact about Kailey and who Kailey is outside of pageantry.
Fun fact about Kailey, I know a lot of numbers of pi. Again, pattern girl. I knew 67 at one point. I think I'm around like 25-ish now. I can read them off. You give me till the end of the week. Let's see. Today's Sunday. You give me till Wednesday and I'll have 100 digits like momentarily memorized. I love numbers. So yeah, that's a good one. And I'm going to
I love how your brain works.
I hold on to numbers. I've phone numbers that I've memorized since I was like 5. I'm a walking phone book. That's, I guess, could be a fun fact, but I'm going to share an additional one because I think it's extra fun. So I have a connective tissue disorder. It's called Ehlers-Danlos, and I have the hypermobility type. Camille Schreier, our former Miss America, also had that, which means I'm a bendy queen. So my body bends in ways that's super weird. And so like I can do weird things, like bring my elbow over here and like I can wait, where's my fingers? There they are. Bring them up there. So yeah, that's a fun thing. It's cool party tricks. Watch me turn my arms all the way around. It gives people the heebie-jeebies, but man, does it get some fun attention.
Okay, so now do you have any concerns with that? I mean, do you need to spend extra time like strengthening muscles so that you don't damage a ligament? I mean, is there a concern like as you get older, or you know, just in general, like you're just so loose that you could hurt yourself basically without even trying, really?
Yes and no. I'm really body aware, and I think part of that is because of this, but also because of eating disorder recovery. You have to, you got to be besties with your body, or at least try to.
Yeah.
So I feel when things aren't right, and so if my body's hurting, I'm not doing those party tricks because I'm going to end up with further issues. But yes, strengthening joints is a really important thing. Trying not to work on flexibility, believe it or not, like a lot of people need to, but I can't lengthen those ligaments and whatnot. So for me, I have to also keep my muscles tight. So things like massages and stuff tend to be more problematic because with us, our muscles are tight, our joints are loose. You loosen those muscles, those joints start falling out all over the place. So for me, it's really about knowing my limits, being really conscious of the way that I'm moving and taking care of myself when I'm hurting, which is realistically no different than other people. There's just a different level of awareness that I have to have, and a different level of maybe being proactive than other people need to have. So
now, how old were you when you figured this out?
I was, let's see, I think I was still in college when a doctor brought it up because I was like, hey, is it normal that I can just do this? And she was like, no, it's not. And so she was like, I think you have something that's aggressively underdiagnosed. And she told me what it was. And I was like, I'm not really heard of that. And I looked it up and I was like, wow, I sure do have a lot of those symptoms. And I just went about my life assuming that was maybe a thing that I dealt with. And then I did have some additional things come up. There are all sorts of other conditions that can come and follow suit that become comorbidities. It doesn't mean they will. But when I started noticing some of those things, I was like, I think I need to get a diagnosis so I can get follow-up diagnosis so that I can take care of myself. So that this doesn't feel as progressive as it can for other people. I recognize this as part of my life and it is an added layer of difficulty. It doesn't have to be the biggest obstacle. It doesn't have to be the thing that stands in my way from doing things. I just have to be conscious of doing them a little different.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to go back to pageant for just a minute because we talked about some fun things outside of pageant, right? But I mean, I would love to see you do that in an evening gown, but we won't.
Challenge accepted. You
Why
just
not?
wait.
You know, I mean,
I'm not going to do it on stage.
What are
but
your
you're
poses? What are your poses maybe in fitness? You know?
I just like turn my arms. I just show you my hyper extended arms. You're going to be like, wow, okay.
Okay. So this is not your first trip around the mountain. You've ridden this horse before. So take me back to how you found out about the Miss America opportunity and what your initial reaction was, and then how you got into it.
So I watched Miss America as a kid periodically. I wouldn't say that that was like a go-to thing. It was, if it popped up on TV, I was like, oh, that's cool, but never knew when it was coming. Just happened to come across it. I didn't know they were local organizations. I just was like, oh, there's people from states that show up here and then one of them wins. Cool. And then in college, or I guess high school, my senior year, my youth pastor at the time, Katie Lander, now Thomason, was Miss Clark County, I think 99 or 2000. Do you know who this is? Yeah, at all? So so she was my youth pastor, and I remember her talking with some other girls when they were wanting to get scholarship dollars because she was a college success coach. And she's like, hey, there's this thing, Miss Clark County might be an option for you. So I had heard it talked about, I had seen her autograph cards, which I proudly carried around. It would like to places where she was at. So I could be like, hey, look, tease her about it a little bit. And then Kenzie Hammond, who's our current Miss Olympics, she competed in Miss Clark County my, I think, junior year of college. And I was like, I want to go watch. This sounds cool. I never knew when this was. And so I did. I took my mom and we watched. And I remember at intermission, I looked over at my mom and I said, I think I could do that. And she was like, I think you could too. And I was like, no, like, I really think I could do that. That looks fun. I want to do it. So I signed up the next year. Didn't place at all. I think a lot of us go in with this ignorant bliss. Oh my gosh, like I can do this. I've got it. And I love the confidence. Maybe a little bit delusional when we don't have enough information, but I genuinely think it's better just to go in thinking that you are capable and that you can do it, and then learn how to be disappointed when it happens, because at some point it will happen for you. There are very rare occasions where you've got like our Miss America's teen right now who won her local, won her state, won nationals first try. That is not the majority. It is a very small percentage. So yeah, I had to learn how to be disappointed. And I also had to learn how to cheer others on when you are disappointed. Went back and competed another year, didn't place, was the highest fundraiser for the Children's Miracle Network, which used to be our partner nonprofit organization, and came back a third year after taking a break because her girl was fully invested in her recovery. I was second runner up. Vanessa was our first runner up at that competition. And I was stoked. I won, I think, 4 points of the crown, an interview award, and I was just happy. I was so happy with where I placed. It was the first time where I felt good about what I was doing and confident in who I was and like ready to just take whatever happens and let it be what it is.
Yes.
And then this last year, like I said, after volunteering for a year and being re-eligible, I came back with a very different mindset. I definitely was in a competitive, but not in a problematic way mindset where it was like, I see what needs to be done now.
Yeah.
I see where I need to have more focus. I've been so focused on the backside, you know, interview and job prep, and that's great. The stage part matters too. But I was so focused on, can I do the job? Yes, but can you also display these other parts? And so I spent a lot of time prepping. I was prepping, I think, every week for a couple times a week for a couple of months, practicing fitness and all sorts of stuff. And yeah, it was great. And I had things that went wrong during the competition, and I was like, we don't have time to feel any sort of way about that. If you want to be upset later on, go for it. But right now, we got stuff to figure out.
Yes, we do.
So very different, very, very different experience this time around. And I was okay with whatever's going to happen to a different level than I was before, because I also knew that I still had a volunteer position that I could go back to. So I wasn't going to lose, even if I was the lowest score on that stage.
Yes. I love that. I love the mindset going into that. And I also love the fact that despite things going sideways for you during competition, right? All the things that you'd done the preparation for, you were ready for the stage part this time. Even though things go awry, finding that neutral thinking so that you can go forward, leave that where it was, and just keep trucking. So important. I mean, you have to, right? You have to. And if you allow yourself to get stuck in the rut of thinking, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just blew it. You know, I mean, then we're too focused on the winning, right? And I blew it. I've you know, now I've ruined my opportunity, and that's going to carry itself forward to every other phase of competition. We can't have that. So keeping yourself in the right frame of mind so that you could continue to go through each piece and just let the cards fall where they may, right? And look what happened. Look what happened.
Exactly.
Glad you didn't take yourself out of the running.
Too. And that's the thing I think I'm most proud of in that entire experience, because frankly, I didn't see that coming. When I bombed my talent, I immediately got off stage. No, it was not good. That's okay. Stuff happens. And you move on. Yes. And I got off stage and I said, we do not have time to, like, I wish you got it. You need to put that face back on. You need to go out and do fitness. Like, it is the best thing you've ever done in your life, because the worst thing you can do is show defeat on stage. Not because defeat is wrong, but because I had worked so hard and I wanted to showcase what I could do. Not my feelings. I can deal with those later. I want to showcase my ability. So I said, you get out there and you do that fitness like it is the last time you will ever do anything in your life. And it was also like the most fun I had doing it, because I just felt so powerful getting to do that. And I, you know, even though I wouldn't say like proud of my talent, I don't feel regret or resentment about it. It is what it is. And I think I'm super cool for coming back and not letting that defeat everything that I did, and not letting that inform my Miss Washington experience. I'm not afraid of talent this year, and that is the first time I've ever felt that way. I'm excited. It's still nerve-wracking to perform, but I'm stoked to do it this year, and that's
good. Okay, so then you have to share now what your talent is, and you don't have to give anything away. You don't have to give anything away, because I know you've got some super, you know, secret things you've been working on behind the scenes. So all right. So what's your talent? What are you bringing to the Miss Washington stage this year?
I'm okay sharing with it. Again, I'm always I share, and we're all better for it. / it might not matter to anybody. So I am singing a song from Hamilton. I will be King George III, which is very funny. So, you know, either way, I'm getting a new crown that night. I'm just teasing. But I will. It's just have a king's crown for sure. And I am singing the song What Comes Next. I'm doing it to the tune of You'll Be Back, because You'll Be Back's lyrics are a little bit violent. What comes next is a little too slow. So we're merging the two. And I am going to be showcasing King George's very snarky, very sassy, over-the-top personality, which he kind of controls on stage because, of course, he's a regal person who you have respect for. I want to bring a little bit more entertainment to his character. And so I am bringing what's inside out and allowing him to entertain, and I get to do that through it. So I'm really excited. It's going to be fun. There might be like a little kick line in there. It's going to be over the top. But that's the goal, right? It's musical theater. If you don't bring it, it's just not it can be a little awkward. So we're bringing it. I'm bringing the energy, and we're going full King George unapologetically.
Entertainment value, baby, all the way. All the way.
That's the goal. I'm like, I want people to laugh. I want them to enjoy. I want to get off the stage and have them be like, da, 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 like, you know, in their heads. So.
So what I love about that, so I'm just going to say this about you. I have so enjoyed getting to know you through this process. And because I feel like everything you just said is almost like you created this character just for you.
Amazing.
Because it's, I mean, snarky, over the top, maybe a little sarcastic, maybe a little regal, maybe a little silly. I mean, you are going to carry this off to the T. I mean, I cannot wait to see this on stage, Kailey. It's going to be so much fun. So much fun.
I'm just going to keep myself from laughing.
I haven't seen you perform, so I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see it. Yeah. And just a month away.
I know, it's so soon. So soon. I got to finish getting all those costume pieces together. There's a lot of costume.
Yes. So I want to go back for just a minute to something that you were talking about when you were talking about your journey through the Miss America opportunity. Starting out, you know, kind of like not really understanding what it was all about, maybe having heard about it a little bit. And so for the sake of women who are considering getting involved in the Miss America opportunity, when you sat in the house and watched a friend of yours on stage, what was it that made you go, I think I could do that? Why did you have that thought?
There's a lot,
what drew you
lot of
in?
Things it's hard to pinpoint because I actually haven't thought about it because it just felt like, well, I feel like I'm just supposed to go on that stage. I think there's a part of me that has always wanted to be a performer, but has always been afraid of that. Most people, if you ask them, like, does Kailey want to perform? They'll be like, no, she hates it. Like, because I was so intimidated about the performance aspect, but wanted to have a moment to be entertaining. So you kind of have to learn how to accept that you're a performer if you want to have the entertainment factor. I also just thought it was fun that I'd get an opportunity to play dress up and like you're supposed to. It's not weird if you're on stage in an evening gown. It's fun. And I thought it was really cool to have the supermodel moment. I thought it would be cool to challenge myself to answer a question really quick, going in blind, not knowing what to expect. I liked the external pressure and wanted to have that because it felt very true to who I was. And I felt like it just fit. Like I fit really well within, I guess, the requirements of participating or the categories. And so obviously I show up and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so in over my head. I'm overwhelmed. Or as we now say, energized. We're energized about this.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, but at the time, Kailey didn't know that term. She was overwhelmed. And so, but yeah, after doing it the first time, even though I didn't win, I didn't place or anything, I was like, okay, this still makes sense for me. This still makes sense. I like this. I like the people. I like the opportunities. I like the chance to grow and become a better interviewer and all of those things. And so I definitely had different goals the next year of what I wanted to get better at. And that really changed my experience. And also, I think it's something important for people who are watching going, maybe I want to compete, but I don't know. Step back. Don't look at the whole thing, or rather maybe zoom in. Don't look at the whole thing, because I think looking at everything can be overwhelming. But if you're someone who wants to display a talent, there's a place for you.
Yes.
If you're someone who loves public speak, there's a place for you.
Yeah.
To get better, there's a place for you. You don't have to focus on every piece of the competition and what you may or may not be good at. If there's something in there that you like, want to be a part of, is already part of who you are, then join, because the worst that's going to happen is you're going to learn other skills. That doesn't sound so terrible to me. And get new friendships. And so I think kind of zooming in on what is it specifically that I do like about that can be really helpful, which I'm obviously now having the moment to realize that for myself. And so I think that can be helpful for other people. Pick one thing if the whole thing is overwhelming, If you're not feeling energized, you're just feeling overwhelmed, pick one thing and be excited about that, and then go ahead and just try the rest. Just try it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a great way to look at it and compartmentalize and sort of say what would attract me to this. And then we can figure out the rest as we go. Really.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And the other thing that you brought up that I think is really important is one thing that I think we as women who have participated in the system, the Miss America system, it's important that we help other women who are interested in the opportunity or maybe have never really heard about the opportunity. If you're inviting them into, I just invited a young woman the other day, you need to check out the Miss Washington Scholarship Organization. She's in her, she lives in the area, and they don't understand, maybe we say scholarship dollars, pageant, they don't understand. I didn't understand either. And this was 20 years ago, that there's a journey here from the local to the state to the Miss America stage. Like the levels of opportunity here just get more incredible as you go. The scholarship dollars grow, the people that you'll meet, the networking, but the personal growth and development that has to occur at each phase. And then of course you pointed out so well, the being able to learn how to deal with disappointment and the humbling aspect of being surrounded by other women who force you to bring your best because they're bringing their best. And so you get to learn from each other, but you get to learn from yourself about how you can bring your best and where you need to grow, right? Which sometimes we only learn that we need to grow when we don't win. And so that's okay too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's a very common experience for most people who are competing for the first time, second time, third time.
Yes. So I'm just curious, have you had the opportunity to do some recruiting? And when you do, how do you go about that? How do you recruit young women into the organization?
We haven't done any like formal recruiting, no tabling or anything like that, especially because we're so close to state right now. We're pretty focused, but I do try to keep an open conversation with people. I like to bring up very, slyly that I do this. So it's not like, I'm Miss Greater Vancouver, like maybe sometimes because it's funny, but for the most part, I just try to provide opportunities for people to ask questions about it. You just drop it a little bit and people are like, what's that? But also talking with parents sometimes is the most effective thing. You find somebody who's like, oh yeah, I have a daughter who's in high school. I'm like, so have you heard about this? Because parents have a lot of leverage. Even if their teenagers push back, they have a lot of leverage, especially if they're like, hey, you do this thing and then I don't have to pay as much college. Like sometimes parents also say, whatever you earn in scholarships, I'll pay you. I've had multiple friends who have had that experience. And so, I think parents can be a really big part of that, especially because kids are not good at keeping track of things logistically. Like I lost the business card to follow her. But also, just keeping a conversation on appearances, looking for opportunities, posting consistently. That's so important. It's a part of our job. It's a requirement, but it gets people engaged. When girls see us on Instagram, on Facebook, they're like, what is she doing? I'm so curious. And it's attractive to them. We know that's one of the best ways to recruit is being proactive and also engage them, send messages, invite them to things like send off parties or other pageants. We had someone in our local organization, or I guess outside of it, who reached out to us and said, hey, I'm interested in doing this. I want to know information. And Sherry and I had coffee with her and she's like ready to go. She wants to learn everything she possibly can. And it was so cool getting to talk to her about the ins and outs and that she's just ready to learn. And being present on social media allows people to figure out who you are and feel comfortable asking if they can talk to you, especially when you're just really real on your stories and on your posts. Like just keep it real, keep yourself approachable because people will ask, what are you doing and why?
Well, and you do an amazing job of that. I mean, the way you put yourself out there, you're so approachable. You're so genuine. You're very authentic in the way that you put yourself out there on social media. I can't imagine any young woman feeling intimidated or unable to approach you to get more information or to ask questions, especially, in a way that's very informal, just being able to send a message over. So I love that for you, and I'm grateful for that. For other young women who are watching and following what you're doing. You're a great representative for the organization that way. I have one last question for you, and then I'll let you go because I know you probably haven't even bothered to get into the kitchen to get yourself something going for dinner tonight.
Not
after
yet.
your busy day. Okay.
Next step. I'm looking forward to the bacon I got in the fridge.
And you've had a full weekend,
Yeah.
right? And so yeah, it would be nice to have at least a little bit of downtime. Yes. So Breann won't take up your whole evening here, but I just wanted to know, is there anything, Kailey, in your year this year that you did not expect that was kind of a surprise to you, either in, you know, like a positive way or in like I didn't expect that kind of a way, that because this is your first year fulfilling the title for the full year and then going to the Miss Washington stage. Is there anything through that journey that just kind of maybe you weren't prepared for, you were a little caught off guard by? And I'm asking this question for other women who may be coming in and they earn a local title coming this fall or in the spring, and they're like, oh yeah, I get this, I totally get, you know, I want to do, you know, but what was it for you? I mean, being familiar with the organization, but then this year actually being the title holder.
I don't know that I've faced as many obstacles in terms of being surprised by things as maybe others have who are first-time title holders, again, because of the volunteer experience. Yep. Getting to see them prepare for state, getting to see how they were reaching out to sponsors, and really getting to be on the inside of that. I knew the job a little better than I did the year before or any year before. Yeah. So I felt like I had a great framework, a great place to start. I would say something that's a little bit surprising to me is how difficult it can be to get into schools. I have had almost like 4 or 5 different appearances with schools, and they've all fallen through for one reason or another. And so that's not something that I expected at all, but it just kind of is what it is, and that's okay. Just because you want to do something because everybody else is doing something doesn't mean that you can't go with plan B and start putting yourself in situations that are maybe a little bit more controllable, and then trying to supplement these opportunities to be in schools when you have the chance, when you have the ability, and frankly, when you have the capacity to just be okay with someone dropping the ball. I think sometimes we just we need things to go our way, so we do these safe things, and I think that's great. Sometimes you need that to build up momentum. And so there are times where I'm like, okay, I could plan this, and then if it gets canceled, which I don't want it to, that's okay because I still have something else planned. It's not like, oh, I'm just not gonna have appearance for like a couple of weeks now. Like, I try to avoid that if possible by having things planned. So if I lose one, I still got another close by. So that has been a little bit tricky. I think when, you know, we're gearing up for school to start again, when I'm getting closer to giving up the crown, and maybe there's a little bit less going on besides recruiting and actually prepping for the pageant, I can be a little bit more pushy about trying to get into schools. So that is something that I really looked forward to. And so it's just kind of having to reroute. But I can tell you, I'm feeling a lot more prepared to go into schools, having had prepared a few different times to not give a presentation. Well, that's okay, right? I had practice without actually having the thing happen. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I'm more prepared now.
Absolutely. I love the mindset in that. So just out of, as I said, I was only going to ask you one thing, but I want to ask you. I'm a talker.
You know, I do this all night.
I know. I know you're good. So when you garner, so all of the work that you've done to access those opportunities at schools, those are inroads that you have created for yourself. Those are asks that Kailey, Miss Greater Vancouver, has made, correct?
Yeah, none of them have been set up for me.
Right.
I am utilizing the resources available to me, those resources being people in our organization or slightly outside of our organization who are teachers or in schools. So that is something that I think is really important to lean on. I think I gained that skill, the networking skill, and knowing that it's okay to ask people those things because I was the president of an international networking organization, a local chapter here. Yeah. And it's referral based. So it's about getting people in, talking to them, building connections. And so it's also I think a little bit less of a letdown because I've heard a lot of no's in the past. If I don't want to join, I don't want to visit, I don't want to go do that. So yeah, really learning to lean on your network. And because they're there for a reason. And I've had that same thing with sponsors. I've had sponsors personally reach out to me because they like my social media to say, hey, can I sponsor you? But I also have various friends in the organization who I've said, who sponsored you in the past? And I said, you're part of my network. That's now your networking partner. Can you name drop me? Can you bring me up in a conversation? And that's a really important skill to have. And you're still doing the work. You're just using your network to leverage what you're already doing and kind of delete some of those steps because there's already a relationship there. Now you're just kind of connecting these two.
Okay, you get to teach the seminar on marketing.
I would love to.
Marketing and networking.
Networking is like my favorite thing. It's so critical. And I'm glad that I got to be a young person in an international networking organization and then be the president of that after like having to step out of the VP position. It makes you kind of grow up fast and learn how to ask important questions. And it's critical. I feel like I've done pretty well. Why am I shooting myself down? I've done very well in this role because I have used my marketing and networking skills to leverage the experience that I was gifted.
Yes. So I guess speak to a young woman who has just been selected as a local title holder. And now she's been assigned this role of brand ambassador. She's been assigned maybe a few appearances that the organization already had lined up, but then now she's accountable to create for herself a year of service and appearances. What advice would you have for her to begin her networking journey so that she can access opportunities that aren't already on the books for her the night that she's crowned?
First, decide what it is do you want to do. If it's school appearances, great. If not, that's okay too. If you want to go talk to Girl Scout troops, have that in mind. And then start looking for one person who's a teacher, one person who's a Girl Scout troop leader. And it's a lot easier than we often give ourselves credit for. I guarantee someone in your friends, like your Facebook friends list is a teacher.
Yeah.
You can reach out to them and simply say, hey, I am a title holder. I want to give this kind of presentation. Who do I talk to about getting into the Vancouver Public Schools? Like, it doesn't even have to be your school, your class, but who do I talk to about that? Like, what's the first step to volunteering? You begin that conversation. You create a certain level of trust and reliability by saying, I'm going to do the steps, which allows you to create a little bit of credibility as well when someone sees that you're willing to do all the things. And then you ask to have someone else bring up your name. Hey, do you have a teacher maybe in this grade? Or who has students of this kind of nature who might benefit from this? Can you just have them email me or let me email them? I would love to begin a conversation. Worst case scenario, they say, no, now's not a great time, not a great fit. But the librarian really might like if you come read a book about body neutrality. They would love to do that.
Yeah.
And then you build connections while you're there. You're at that school, you go around and meet other teachers. If they let you stay for lunch, you do. You ask them, what's their favorite part about teaching? What are you talking about in your classrooms this year? Build relationships, because the relationships is ultimately what's going to create that level of trust and what's going to result in people inviting you into their space and letting you access their network. Because if people don't trust you, they're not going to let you access their network. The moment you do, you have so many networks, so many. It's huge. And then you can start connecting those to one another, which really helps other people too. Hey, you have this person in your network. I have this network. And you're saying you need someone. Now I know somebody.
Yes.
And you just build relationships. That's really all it is. But you're doing it in a professional way. You have a professional, reliable presence. You show up. If you say you're going to do something, do it. I think that's all the time, but especially in networking. You do stay focused on relationships. Look for opportunities. Ask one person to have access to their network, and they will open up for you. You will gain the confidence to start doing that. You will start seeking your own, and then you will start trusting your own network and trying to grow that.
Yeah, and then show up and be amazing, right?
Be amazing, yeah, because people are trusting you to do that. And frankly, if you can do that, you are. Like, don't doubt that. If you have the skill, or you are willing to learn how to develop that skill and refine that skill, and you've already earned your local title and you're already doing these other cool things, don't doubt who you are. You're already awesome. So just showcase who that is. You have nothing to prove and everything to show.
Yep, absolutely. Totally agree with that. The other thing that I think is awesome that I believe a lot of women don't even realize or appreciate is the fact that even though it may not be as prevalent as it was 30 years ago, 20 years ago, there are many local organizations who would still love to have a queen, a crown, someone with a banner appear at their event to add credibility, to add a bit of novelty, to add just a uniqueness in terms of look who's here.
Yeah.
It's amazing. We got Miss Greater Vancouver to come to our whatever, our open house, or our, you know, whatever the case may be. And so just even, you know, I was just on an email string the other day. By the way, ladies, if you're listening, the Lake City Parade is looking for queens. Yeah, I mean, just
good to know. Oh,
I know. Not that you want to go all the way to Lake City necessarily, but
why not?
You never know. You never know, right? Communities that are organizing special events, if you can get in touch with, you know, the mayor's office or whomever is responsible for bringing together dignitaries, there's always opportunities to be utilized if you offer. If you offer, if you never offer, they don't even know that you're there. So I think that that's another just unique thing that maybe we don't always think about. But the networking and the relationship building, I think, is so key. Just sitting down, I remember being a local title holder very first time and sitting and typing letters to organizations, and ended up on somebody's desk and never moved. Right. So much more about the relationships, especially today in a world where people are just inundated with options. Right. Yeah. Okay, my dear, I'm going to wrap up our time here.
Sure.
But I do want to ask, I know. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you were hoping I would ask you about so that you could talk about it?
Ooh, you know, I could talk about so many things. So I'm like, I've got like 60 things you could talk about or ask about that I would love to talk about. I guess, one thing. So I know. There's an incredible organization that I am currently partnering with. It's called Hello Life Eating Disorder Recovery.
Okay.
They are based out of Cowlitz County, so the Longview area. They are the only organization of its type in Longview that is solely focused on eating disorder recovery and building resources for people to have access to that free or very cheap. And so they're constantly doing fundraising for those kind of things. They have a research project that's going on right now. They're trying to figure out how like food shortage in the Longview area maybe influences eating disorder behaviors and maybe just the amount of diagnosis that there are. And they would like to spread out more, start building what they're doing into other areas. I was really excited to get in touch with them, which really was just Googling, you know, eating disorder recovery organizations near me. Love the internet. And they want to break into Clark County because they see the need here. A lot of what is in this area is in Portland. It's in Oregon where maybe there are different insurance options and whatnot. And so I have really loved being able to work with them and know that they're always looking for opportunities to grow. So other title holders, if you are interested in doing things, they love when title holders can show up to their stuff because it does invite other people and it invites different kinds of people, and allows those people who show up who are excited about this to have resources, if not for themselves, maybe a family member or a friend. Longview isn't the most like popular place. So if you bring people in that seem really shiny, nifty, and cool, people get excited. So if anybody wants to reach out to them to ask how they can help and support, I would love to be able to help coordinate that because I love what they're doing and I want to see it bigger.
Oh, that's great, Kailey. All right, so you have an assignment then. You've got to get me some information.
Yes.
So I can put it, when we put this over on the YouTubes, we make sure that we get this stuff in there. So awesome. Well, I'm so grateful that you took the time out on a Sunday evening to visit with me. I can't wait to watch you on the Miss Washington stage in 1 month. That's quick. I know. And I want to pay you a compliment. You are so articulate. You're so easy to visit with. It's been a joy. You're so authentic and genuine, and it's just been a pleasure to sit and visit with you tonight.
Thanks.
So I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
I'll see you soon.